I work my strengths and I hire my weaknesses. And I believe it's the action in the law of attraction that makes our dreams a reality. Think it, feel it, get off your backside, take action, and you got to do it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show today. I do want to start with one thing before I introduce my guest. Did you know that my podcast is now one of the top 2.5% podcasts globally? I'm told. So that wouldn't happen without you and without you sharing and being interested in what we're doing here. So I want to thank you so much for helping us get to that milestone. And I also want to thank you for helping us get to top 1%, which is where I'm going to go next. Today, I am fulfilling my promise to you with another amazing success story. I've got Greg Reid on the podcast. Greg, welcome to the How to Happen podcast.
There you go. I love goals. The easiest way to hit a goal is to have a goal to hit. And that 1%, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I agree with you, and I am going to get there. Now I just have to put a time frame on it because you need a time in order to solidify that. But so let me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Greg, but I'm going to first tell you that when I started looking into Greg after I got introduced to him by my friend Justin Breen, there was a little bit of envy and a little bit of like, man, do I have work to do? Greg is he's a PhD, author, entrepreneur, speaker, filmmaker, connector, celebrity, adventurer, and an outstanding American as well. For over 25 years, Greg has inspired millions of people to take personal responsibility, to step into the potential of their greatness. And as such, his life of contribution has been recognized by government leaders, a foreign princess, as well as luminaries in education, business, and industry. He's written over 100 books, 32 bestsellers, 45 languages. My first book is coming out November 30th, Greg. So I'm just getting started, but on my path to maybe 100. Greg is known best for being founder of Knack, a Forbes and Inc. magazine top-rated event focused on partisanship, networking, and business development. And that's how I found out about Greg through Justin's experience at Knack. He is the producer of the Oscar-qualified film Wishman, based on the creator of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, streaming on Netflix now. And for his work mentoring youth in his hometown of San Diego, Greg was honored by the White House, where a former president commended him for his work for positively working with youth through a local mentorship program. And if that's not enough, Greg recently was honored with the star on the infamous Las Vegas Walk of Stars. Greg, I start every podcast the same way. It's with a simple question, man. How did it happen for you?
Well, first of all, I'm the least qualified guy to do what I do. So all that sounds great.
Okay.
It's interesting. Look, for people out there that wonder if they can get started, they're qualified, or they have the imposter syndrome, the answer is going to be 100% we can do anything as long as we don't let ourselves or someone else talk us out of what we know to be true. So for myself, I'm dyslexic. I can't spell very well. I can't read very well. Play me words with friends, you'll win every single time. And I learned a simple tool to answer your question is I work my strengths and I hire my weaknesses. And that's the answer. So as you'll see, I'm a pretty good orator. I can communicate very well, yet I can't spell and read and write very well. So I hire amazing ghostwriters and editors that take my words and craft them in a way people would actually want to read it in book form. So that's what you do. You work your strengths, hire your weaknesses, all things are possible.
And when did you, well, I mean, you discovered what you're calling weaknesses. I don't know that they necessarily are weaknesses, but what you're calling weaknesses, that's from a young age. These are things that were obvious. How did you deal with them when you were young, when you couldn't hire people to do, with the skill set that was complementary to what you're calling your weaknesses, Greg?
I talked my way out of it. Exactly. I'm giving you the exact answer. We can try to situate all we want, but the fact of the matter is I work my strengths and hire my weaknesses. So again, if I wasn't very good at reading, writing, and spelling and stuff through school, I would talk to the teachers and work my way into working some other deal or extracurricular activity or whatever I had to do. I talked my way through the situation, same exact way we do today. And what I was criticized as a child, I get awards for right now. So for
Right.
example, when I was 14 years old, again, I was just a regular kid, but I wanted stuff. I had great goals. And so I couldn't get a job. So what I did is I took my dad's lawnmower and I went neighbor to neighbor and I got them to pay me $10 to mow their lawn. And then I hired the other kids in the neighborhood for $5 to mow the lawn for me. That's what I did. And I got in trouble for taking advantage of my neighbors and the kids. Yet today, that's what a global entrepreneur does. And
Yeah.
like I said, is we are recognized in a different manner.
And when you were, yeah, that's collaboration, right? That's
Exactly.
yeah, you used to be told that that was cheating, but now it's collaborate, not the lawn mowing thing, but at school and stuff, when you were, asking other people for help, that was, you had to work on your own, right? You had to prove yourself. And now that's kind of out the window, and collaboration is really, that's how you make progress in the world, I think.
Yeah, and
Um,
stay on that topic because
yeah.
it's a great one. This is what I do. People always say, how is it that we've accomplished the things we have? First of all, I got an honorary PhD in literature, an honorary PhD in philosophy. Again, if I had to fill out a form, I'd be stuck after my first name. So the whole idea is that you work your strengths and your higher weaknesses. So for example, a university wanted someone to come in and do commencement speeches. So I brought in my friend, Tonino Lamborghini, Mr. Lamborghini, and we flew to India and we did all the universities and they granted us honorary PhDs, right? So I worked my strengths,
Yeah.
communication, and rewards was accordingly. Same thing in life and business. When I made my first major motion picture, I don't know anything about making movies. So again, I went and reached out to people who won Oscars and Golden Globes and networks, and I asked them, how does this work? And I found their system, duplicated for myself, and here we are.
And how did you, so this brings up something interesting, because you're obviously not afraid to approach people. What is, because I think a lot of people, I'm hesitant, reticent to do that sometimes. How did you, well, you weren't, so it doesn't sound like you were. Maybe you were at the beginning. I guess I'm trying to understand how that came to be something you felt comfortable doing. Like, you wanted to do this, you didn't know how to do it. Who the people know how to do it? I'm going to call them, or I'm going to reach out to them, get connected to them, whatever.
Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out what that word reticent means or whatever you just
Yeah,
said.
sorry, man. Sorry.
Again, dropping big word. I just told
Well,
you. I can't read very well. And you're here, you are throwing big words
all
around.
right, you're right. I gotta,
All right,
I'll bring it down. I'll bring it down.
I realize that the most successful people are also the most available. If you're at the top of your field, you're happy-go-lucky, you have nothing to prove. If you're at the bottom, you're happy-go-lucky, you're fresh or eager. The people in the middle, pain in the neck, they're filled with ego, they're edging God out. So I just jumped to the front of the line. So anyone and everyone that I want to have access to, I said, who's getting the results that I want for myself today? And then I reach out to that person. So for example, when I wanted to be a best-selling author, I went to the bookstore and I didn't go to the best written books. I didn't want to be a great writer. I can't write. So I went to the best selling book section and I called every one of those authors and said, teach me. And guess what they did? And here we are today. When I wanted to make films, I said, well, who's winning Oscars? Who's getting these things? I'm going to go meet with those people, find out what they did. Because the most successful people want to share what they did. But here's the only thing I did different than most people. It's not asking for the information. It's not the content. I did something. And that's what stops most people. Most people ask for this great content and wisdom and they sit on it, their big butt. And that means not the one they're on, but they go, I'd go do that too, but. And that's what stops them. For me, I go take action no matter what. And then I reward my mentors by showing them the actionable steps that I took by actually applying what they taught me.
Hmm. And where did you start, Greg? What was when you were growing up after the lawnmower gig, let's say? Where did you go? Where did you want to be? Where were you? What did you want to do?
Exactly what I did. I've always done exactly everything I wanted to do. I don't have one of those stories where, it's opposite. I was just raised differently with a different mindset. I grew up on the beach in Southern California. I surfed and, I still ride skateboards every day at 58 years old. I'm just a regular guy. And what was interesting is my mom instilled something that I actually was crazy enough to believe, that I could do anything I put my mind to. And it always stuck with me. So I said, well, if my mind thinks I can run with bulls or climb Mount Kilimanjaro or swim with sharks or carry the torch for the Olympics, I can do it because my brain tells me I can. And I will not let other people tell me what I can and cannot do. So it's just more of a mindset than anything else.
And you, so I love that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it seems like your mindset is, I feel like I have a great mindset and I've had a lot of success, but I also feel like it's not big enough. Like talking to a guy like you, it makes me think, oh my gosh, my mindset's not big enough because I still have like, I don't know, some of the, like I go after stuff but I still think sometimes like what you just said, some of those things I think to myself, well, I probably would have something that would at least pop up in my mind as an obstacle. Like there's something I can't, there's a challenge there that I'm not sure how to get around.
People only see what they just decide to look at. It's called reticular activator system.
Talk about big words.
Yeah, whatever you seek is seeking you, right? That's why I started doing these events. It's so interesting because people kept saying, well, it's easy for you. You have all these leads, you have these contacts. Well, guess what? Here you go. Boom. Come meet all my friends. It's the bullshit. You have all your stories and excuses are gone. So if you want to start a new clothing line, come hang out at the taco bar with Brian Smith, who founded UGG Boots. If you got an idea for a new game, here's the guy who did Pictionary. Here's an idea for this. I just put a circle of sphere of my friends together so everyone can hang out and we can network and commingle our ideas, because that's where success is. And guess what? Again, what's genius to somebody else might be common sense to you. And someone else is just waiting for that one little puzzle piece. And so for myself, I'm always looking for that next puzzle piece so I can see a clearer picture of exactly where I want to go.
And you pointed to Secret Knock when you were talking about that. Tell us more about what Secret Knock is. I mean, how do you?
It's weird, man. We're a weird event. So we're known as the greatest event in the world you cannot attend. So
Right.
basically, we don't run ads. We're like Lamborghini. We don't run ads. We don't do commercials. We don't do. It's word of mouth, and it's the people that really want to put themselves out there and take an actionable step can go. You have to find us on the internet. Then you have to fill out an application. You have to tell us what you bring to our circle and what our circle can do for you. And then if it's a match, we take a very large tuition to attend, but we will not tell you where it is or who will be there. And that's it. And so basically, yeah, it's all blind faith. We've been going for 15 years, sold out, standing room only. Yahoo Finance just named us the #1 event to attend for 2022. So we're already prepared. Next week, we're doing ours here in San Diego. We've been sold out for months. And the idea is, instead of coaches, teachers, and mentors, what would it be like to actually just hang out with the people who've done it? So last time we did one, we brought President Vicente Fox, for example, and we said, hey, what was it like when George Bush and Condoleezza Rice was trying to talk you to go to war in Iraq? And he said, well, let me explain what they did. They came to Hacienda and they had this little vial and they told us this was, and it was really interesting. We had private Skype with Edward Snowden while he's hiding in Russia and says, look, this is what stuff really went down that you don't see on CNN. Where we bring in the actual people who've done what everyone else is talking about.
It sounds like, do you know Steve Sims?
Of course I know Steve Sims.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll be our closing speaker for Secret Knock.
Oh, he will. Okay. Yeah, I've had him on the podcast and I follow everything. I haven't been to one of his speakeasies yet, but I'd like to. Which, I know, his whole thing sounds like a lot like yours.
Exactly, because we all borrow each other's stuff. Steve has been a speaker for us for years, and he and I did a mastermind together. Then he went on his own and started really expanding in a huge way. And he's impacting the lives of so many people. Look, we're all friends. Our circle is very, very small. And the point is, imagine being in a room with all these people that are doing. No one's talking. And no one's showing their fancy cars. No one's showing their stuff. Everyone's just normal. In fact, we don't even have name tags. Name tags are not allowed. You have to go up to somebody and meet them to find out who they are. And trust me, when you're sitting at a table and I go, coming up to the stage is the guy who invented the credit card magnetic strip and changed banking for $4 trillion. And you've been sitting next to the guy the whole time. That's the whole point. It's like, how can you surround yourself with amazing human beings who are doing? All right, next question.
Yeah. How many people are typically at an event? Sorry, that's
yeah, I mean, I feel like we're spending a lot of time on the event. The event is, I don't know, we limit it to like 200-300 people. We always keep it small. So everyone can get to know each other. The whole idea is to network and mastermind. And what we do it is a very weird way. So for example, we bring our phones out and we sit there, and our goal is, if you're talking to someone and they say, hey, I'm looking for a connection and whatever, right then and there, you say, what's your text? And you make that text introduction on the spot. So imagine 300 positive, like-minded people that are helping one another. By the time you walk out of there, you've got more leads and connections than most people can have in a lifetime. Again, as long as you'll apply and do something with it.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And making movies, Greg, how did that come about, and what was the reason you wanted to become a producer or a filmmaker?
Yeah, I didn't want to. So I was at
Okay.
one of my events and I was interviewing Frank Shankwitz, founder of a nonprofit called Make-A-Wish Foundation that grants wishes to terminally ill kids. And I asked him at the interview, at the end of it, we are just wrapping up. I go, hey, by the way, just out of curiosity, what was your wish? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, you're the founder of Make-A-Wish. Did you have a wish? And he goes, no one ever asked me. I
Really?
said, what? I go, I want to be the guy that grants the wish of the founder of Make-A-Wish. What do you want? A car, a boat, a Lamborghini? I know a guy. What do you want? And he goes, no, he goes, I just want my story to be made into a movie so my grandkids will know that I did something. So he signed over his life rights. And again, I said, well, I'll make it into a major feature film. Just know I've never made a feature film. But he trusted me, and it took 6 years of trials and tribulations. You have no idea. But it came out in 2019 called Wishman. We made the final ballot for the Oscars, and then we were trending for like a year and a half on Netflix. And now you can download us on Amazon Prime or any of the streaming stations worldwide. And it's all about that everyone can be a hero. You don't need to be a billionaire or celebrity to make a positive impact in someone's life. Everyone can give a pair of socks to a homeless person or stop a bully from fighting.
Yeah.
Everyone can do something to have that ripple effect, and everyone can be a hero.
Hmm. Well, I'm gonna have to watch that. Well, okay. Can I get into a little mechanics of that? Because
Sure.
I'm just so
I, and,
yeah.
and I already know what you're going to ask me, and I'll just take you down the rabbit hole because a lot of
Okay.
people ask this thing. I don't know anything about making movies. So what I did is I said, I need to find a screenwriter. So I took out an ad on a secretive website that no one's ever heard of called Craigslist. And I ran a $25 ad. Someone answered it named Theo Davies, and he went to write the movie, produce the movie, directed the movie, and won awards worldwide. And again, whatever bullshit excuse you're sitting at home right now thinking, well, I can't get, so I don't know anyone. Craigslist. And there is no excuse. Right now, we have access to more information, more content on your phone. Right now, you have access to more information than Bill Clinton did as president of the United States of America. So the whole idea is, how can you leverage and start using that in a positive way and build win-win relationships where everyone comes out on top? So for example, I didn't have a lot of cash to make this movie. I didn't know what I was doing. So, I said, hey, how about instead of me giving you a full salary, I give you an equity share. And if the movie takes off, you're rich. If not, at least you got a great experience. And what we did is we found ways to collaborate with people in a huge way. And by doing that, we've impacted the lives of tens of millions of people.
And that's awesome, by the way. Thank you. And yeah, 25 Craigslist. I never would have thought of it. So thank you for taking me through that without having to ask the question. And this work that you're doing, going around and talking to the military all around the world, I guess. What's been your motivation for that?
I mean, that's self. I don't even know how to answer that. I
Yeah.
love my country. I mean, I'm an American, right? And it's challenging for me to see these transitioning soldiers that from 18 till 40, 50, they've only known one thing. And for them to transition to civilian life, they don't know how to fill out an application for a job or how to do certain things. When they leave, TAPS tells them, here's how to get unemployment for 6 months and good luck to you, whatever. But
Right.
there's not really a transition. So I've been very fortunate that I worked with American Dream U and some great organizations where we've gone to different bases, the Pentagon, spoke to the generals and helped transitioning soldiers, take their asset, which the military spend millions of dollars preparing you for, and to bring it to the civilian marketplace. So for example, the person who runs my company right now, I own 6 corporations. His name's Kevin McLean. He runs all my 6 corporations right now. He's a 2-time war veteran, crashed in a helicopter, Brilliant mind. He was a liaison to all the generals, and now he's working for me, running all my companies. And I got to tell you, the moment he came on board, all the systems and training that he learned from the government, he applied to my business. It took off like crazy. Why is everyone not capitalizing and tapping into this source of amazing human beings? But all I'm saying, it's all around us, and I want to share with the world all that's possible.
Okay. And I had an opportunity to interact with Kevin, getting this set up, and he was, well, he handled it himself, first of all, and he was totally on, just got it done right away. And he was very kind too.
Yeah, and that's the idea, and that it's all around us. And another buddy of ours who sponsors Secret Knock, his name is Eric Power, and what he does is he helps soldiers that get turned down from the military for different benefits, goes and fights for the veterans to actually get them the money that they're, the resources that they need. And it's one of my passions, because I see it. Even though I didn't serve, I grew up in San Diego, Southern California, which is a military town,
Right.
and family members and things of this nature. I just think it's something that we owe it to people. There's nothing more frustrating for me than to see someone who's homeless or down on their luck that served our country and did such amazing things, because they're just not getting the resources, the attention that they deserve.
Yeah. I've had the honor to have many ex-military come into my companies as well. And well, maybe I've had similar experiences to what you've had with Kevin. These people come in and they're just exceptionally good. They're exceptionally well trained. They're exceptionally disciplined. They're exceptionally good goal setters. I think there's this sort of mentality that the of some people, that the military just sort of indoctrinates you into some system, but they really do teach you how to think. They teach you
I agree.
how to be leaders.
And again, I want that system implemented into my companies.
Right.
Yeah. Well, structure, organization, accounting, accountability. Yeah, what a concept, right? And so that's what we do. All right, next question. Let's move on.
Yeah. How do you describe yourself? So if Kevin is this person that's, the systems, you talked about your strengths and hiring for weaknesses, but are you the type of person who just kind of like is a quick start, gets ideas out there and needs people to like put them together the rest of the way? Or how do you operate?
Yeah, so I am definitely, I call it the show pony. So I'm the guy out front because, again, I'm a good orator and I can communicate the things. But as soon as we get clients and things of this nature, I'm the last guy. If you're going to publish a book with us, that walks you through the publishing process and writing and organization. Again, I can't spell, read, or write. So yes, you're going to go to that group and they're going to handhold you to make sure it's done correctly from beginning to end. And what we do is we focus on over delivery on every single thing we do. And that's why we set expectations right up front. So example, you're going to come to our event. We won't tell you where it is, who's going to be there. There's your expectation set. Pretty easy. And then we say our only rule is to be cool. If water runs out of the table, don't complain. Get your ass up, get some water, and then bring it back to the table. They need some too. If trash is on the floor, throw it away. You're not at your mom's house. And so we set expectations very clearly up front. And by doing that, we attract and bring in the most amazing people into our sphere of influence. Same thing in our organization. What we do is we sit there and say, look, I'd love to help you with publishing your book. I've been very successful at it. On the same note, I'm not good at the nuts and bolts, but I've created an incredible team that can guide you through that process. And since I'm a trusted source from the work that I've already done, you know that it's going to be handled in the right way.
Greg, so you mentioned Kevin, you mentioned the Netflix movie, the Make-A-Wish movie. What you're obviously your goal and your sort of purpose is to, not just connect people, but inspire people. And I'm just wondering if you could share with me a story or two about, the most meaningful inspirations that you've made, because I'm imagining, you get out and you talk to a ton of people, let's say outside of your Secret Knock event, you got, you're speaking all over the place and people are coming and they're listening. And oftentimes it's, at least in my experience, it's a great message and people are like really excited about it, but they're not always acting on it. There's a lot of times there's not great stories that stick with you, but I'm sure so I'm just wondering what your experience has been.
Well, first of all, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
I really don't mind whether you do anything with it or not. That's not my job. My
Yeah,
job is to
sure.
get the information out, and then it's up to them to do something. I'll give you an
Of
example.
course.
When people come up and they say, "Hey, will you meet with me?" My answer is always the same. Yes. But first you need to do something and text me at this number at 10:10 a.m. on Tuesday and say I'm in. That gets rid of 99.99% of people because it was an actionable step. And then when the one person who does do that, I say, great, well, I'll meet you now at my house at noon on Thursday, but you have to bring 2 empty lobster shells and a baseball helmet. That gets rid of the other 99%. But the person that says they want some guidance and help, then they'll text you and show up and do what's uncomfortable.
Right.
The chance of me working with that person to have a success is extraordinarily high. And I believe it's the action in the law of attraction that makes our dreams a reality. Think it, feel it, get off your backside, take action, and you got to do it.
Got it. Okay. And as you move forward, a guy like you that's got, has accomplished so many things, you've already said, just the reason that maybe you've accomplished so many things is you just do it. You go and you do it. Well, what are some of the things that you still haven't done that you want to do?
Zero.
Zero. Okay. Until
And,
tomorrow. And then
and,
there's going to be something that comes up and you're going to want to do it and you do it.
no, I don't have any of that surreal stuff. No, I don't. When I was
Okay.
17, 18, I made a bucket list of 80 impossible items for me to have on my bucket list. And I've done every single one of them. I mean, come on, a guy who can't read and write and dyslexic to get to become a doctor, that's insane. To make a major, motion picture for a kid who grew up on the beachscape, impossible. To become a best-selling worldwide author for a guy who can't read, impossible. I mean, I set goals so crazy huge for myself that I've accomplished them. So now I sit my son down who's 9 and I said, what's your bucket list? And he says, look, I want to fly an airplane. I said, great. So here's what we're going to do. We go to Oahu, we get a private plane instructor, we fly to Kauai, and the instructor teaches them and lets them fly a plane. What do you think's more happy for me? To climb another mountain, to do another chore, to make another project, or to watch somebody else achieve their goals?
Yeah.
And to me, that is true happiness and the pleasure of being a dad. And I get to learn something from my kid each and every day, lessons nonstop. And here's my greatest one recently. I realized I was doing a podcast and someone said, you give your son money, an allowance to do things they don't like to do, like pull the weeds and mow lawns and make beds. I go, absolutely. I'm teaching my son the power of respect and money. And they go, stop, because that's a shame. You just destroyed your child. I went, what? He goes, you've just completely ruined your child. I'd expect something better from you, Greg. That's a real disappointment. And I went, okay. I go, will you please teach me? And she goes, Greg, from the earliest age, you're teaching your son the only way to make money is to do something they hate. Shame on you. And I went, God, I love this.
Yeah.
So I sat him back down and said, Cole, I go, listen, man, you're 9 years old. You make these TikTok videos and all these different memes. From now on, that's your new job. From now on, every time you need money for playing video games or whatever, you make me these things and I will pay you your allowance for that. And by the way, living in this mansion and having the lifestyle you do, you're going to make your bed and do the laundry because that's the contribution for living in this environment. And we changed the paradigm. So now when he comes up to me, he doesn't say, hey, Dad, I can't afford that new bike. He goes, hey, Dad, how can I afford that new bike? How many videos can I make for you?
Yeah.
And he's learning the power of working his strengths. And here's the other thing too, I said about hiring your weaknesses. Recently, I had a party at the house. I said, Colt, I go, you got to get your room cleaned up and everything dialed in, the laundry put away. We got people coming over. And one of his friends comes downstairs and he had a handful of money. And he goes, hey, Dad, can you put this in my bank? I go, where'd you get that money? He goes, your son gave it to me. I go, why? And he goes, well, he just paid me to make his bed, to put away. And I go, Colt, get down here. I go, what in the world are you doing? And he says, Dad, you told me to work my strengths and hire my weaknesses.
Yeah.
I had other stuff to do. So there you go.
That is fantastic. Well, that woman was so wise to say that to you because I've certainly been in the same spot. Hey, you got to do the stuff that you don't want to do, right? Because that's how you build character and that's how all that stuff. But that was really smart what she said, and that you said, teach me. You were just like, that's a new idea. I want to hear about that.
That's a new idea. So that's, to me, that aha that people watching or listening right now, you might
Yeah.
go, oh my God, right? Change of paradigm. That's what I thrive for. So that's what inspires me. And that's why I go meet with all these people. That's why I do what I do. It's not because of, another award. I'm going, how do I learn something I don't know? I mean, the
Right.
greatest information I got from unlikely sources. I remember one time a family came over to my house years ago, and I wrote this in one of my best-selling books, 3 Feet from Gold, and people talk about it all the time, but I didn't come up with it. I think a 6-year-old kid did. And the family was there, and they wanted to walk around my house and go tour around all the different stuff. I said, go have fun. This little 6-year-old kid was sitting down there on his iPad or whatever, and just hanging out. And I said, hey, I go, what do you want to talk about? They're all walking around the house. And he goes, like, what? I go, philosophy. And he goes, what's philosophy? And I go, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? And he stopped and he goes, well, it depends. And I go, on what? And he says, where the glass began. I go, what do you mean?
Uh-huh.
If the glass is empty and you put some water in it, it's half full. But if it was full and you poured half out, it's half empty. That's what, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Right.
the whole idea is I'm writing this new book right now. It's called TTE, Talk to Everyone, because everyone you meet will know something you don't know.
That story is fantastic. Greg, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been I know it's a little short, but I'm inspired. And I do very much appreciate, especially that last story about your son. That was really, really, really cool. And your son paying that dude, that was awesome, man. So people want to get in touch with you. I know it's Greg Reid, REID.com. Any other ways that you want people to connect with you?
Yeah, just reach out on Instagram, Greg S. Reid. It goes directly to me. There's no filters or anyone. The only thing though is I don't talk about the weather or what you had for dinner. But if you sit there and say, listen, I'm working on a business thing, who should I contact or what book should I read? I'd be glad to give it to you. I'm going to end on this, and I know we're wrapped up, but I'm going to give you one of my golden nuggets I learned, and then I got to go. I did this book called Wealth Made Easy, where I interviewed people worth $100 million to $1 billion. And I wanted to see if there's a common theme for the most successful people on the planet. And a guy named Mark Anthony Bates taught me this lesson. And he's not the richest guy in the world, but he's the most brilliant when he taught me this. And I'm going to share it with everybody else. I wish I would have learned this when I was younger. So here it is. If you're going to take notes, this is it. CPC. It's an acronym, CPC. It's an acronym that stands for clues, patterns, choices. It's about accountability and responsibility for every single thing that happens. It is your fault. It works like this. If I am a single guy, I'm 58 years old, and I go out on a first date with an amazing woman. Now, she happens to be 20 minutes late. Now, anything could happen, a car accident, babysitter, but there's a little red flag. That's the first C. It's a clue. Mm-hmm. But if I go out on the 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th date, and every single time she's 20 minutes late, that forms a P, which is a pattern.
Right.
Now it's my C, my choice, whether I deal with it, I yell at her, I break up with her, but it's not her fault. She's just late. Stop trying to change people to fit into your own little paradigm. Newsflash, no one wants to be changed. But we'll see someone with a bad reputation in business. They cheat your best friend. We do business thinking, oh, it'll be different for me. Then things go wrong and we're mad at the person. We saw the clue. We saw the pattern. We made the choice. It'd be like seeing a rattlesnake rattle, bite your kid's sister. You go to pet it, get bit, and you're mad at the snake.
Yeah.
Looking back in life, rarely will we be angry at the relationships that failed or negotiations that fell through. We're just mad at ourselves because we stayed in too late. Yeah. We saw the clues, we saw the patterns, but we made our choices late. And the most successful people on the planet, all we do is constantly look for those clues and we follow those patterns, and we have the responsibility to make the right choices.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for leaving us with that. Yep. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Until next time. Bye.
All right. See ya. Thanks for listening to this episode of the How'd It Happen podcast, where we believe that success doesn't happen unless you make it happen. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you like to listen. And while you're there, please rate it and leave a comment as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the show, ideas for future guests, or whatever you'd like to share. And of course, you can always find me at mikemalatesta.com. See you next time. Thanks again for listening to the How'd It Happen podcast.